Hey everyone, it's Ellis, and this is the 12.4 patch notes rundown. This is the first one that I'm doing from LA. And again, remember with this video, if you guys are looking for some of the patch changes and the influence and other things that are taking place inside of the patch, make sure to download the Mobilytics app. I am a co-owner of the app. You can download the app to keep up with some of the changes that actually does end up happening inside of the patches and seeing how it's influencing champions, as well as just monitoring your own gameplay and checking out what else is going on inside of your games, as well as finding out when your lobbies need to be dodged, okay? One of the things that I will mention is that if you are a casual TFT player or you play other games, you can also use the app for those things. It's not specifically just tied into League of Legends, and honestly, as someone who doesn't play TFT at all, when I did start playing it while I was trying to just kill some time, I did use the app and it helped out a lot. So after some time passes, there's also going to be some very nice features that are going to be coming to the app, and so just make sure that you already have it installed. You can get the app below in the YouTube video description, and I hope that you guys enjoy using it. All right, we're gonna get right into it. So I do not have a guest with me today. For the next one, I will try getting one of the Cloud9 players to join me on this, but Reneta Glask, I don't really know anything about her. I wasn't aware that she actually was revealed and everything else while I was here in LA, so I'll probably end up making a separate video that ends up talking about it, but I do just want to touch on that specifically. I think it's the first champion in like 5 or 6 years that I did not do a reveal for, and so actually no, Vex. I don't think I did a reveal for Vex either, so I'm sorry, Reneta is actually the second one, but okay, let's move into it. Aatrox. So we're keeping an eye on the changes to the fighter item system, but it's clear that Aatrox drew the short sword. This buff should hit the sweet spot, the Darkened Blade, sweet spot damage, 150% to 160%. So Aatrox did get some love with the change to Death Stance as well, and now getting access to a little bit more damage is also something that he's going to like. Do I think that it means that Aatrox is instantly viable inside of competitive? No, not really. I still think that Aatrox still suffers from a lot of the same problems. He really only benefits when generally opponents are running into him, or, you know, sometimes people will pick him as a vacuum counter to certain matchups or something like that, but that shouldn't be the reason that you're picking Aatrox inside of competitive. Obviously, for solo queue, Aatrox players are going to be happy, but really this change doesn't do a whole lot. Amumu, E-base damage reduction increased. Last patch's nerfs made our mummy a little too sad, as E-passive damage reduction is now capped, so we can turn some power to the ability by making the baseline stronger. Tantrum, physical damage reduction. 2 to 10 plus 3% bonus armor, 3% bonus magic resist, to 5 to 13 plus 3% bonus armor, 3% bonus magic resist. So this doesn't really do anything. I mean, Amumu's still just in a really rough spot. They ended up crippling him. He was really popular last year for a little while, and then everything just went to utter garbage with him. So it's really unfortunate. This is not really impacting why you're picking Amumu, especially since this type of a change to him only impacts really hyper-specific moments, and it has nothing to do with why you're picking the champion or why you would pick the champion unless it's totally overtuned, which it's not, so it doesn't really change anything. So we're already into the patch. Do want to remind you that this is 12.4, so we're probably in for a filler patch, and I hope you brought the Botox. Ashe, our arrow speed increased. Ashe has been fairly out of the meta for a while now, so we're taking the opportunity to give the Frost Archer some more reliable utility with those magical cross-map ults. So missile speed 1600 to 1500 plus 200 per second of travel time up to 2100. So it's kind of good when you're out of vision, obviously, from the opponents. It's just going to make it a lot harder to dodge. Realistically, again, it's just another one of those placebo buffs. They're too afraid to give Ashe any sort of power into her W or her Q or anything inside of her passive, and so they're just throwing something on here so that she gets picked up, but realistically, it's not going to make Ashe come back into the meta. Blitzcrank, base health regen reduced. We're lowering the robot's innate sustain, so that he has to be a little bit more cautious in lane. Base stats. Base health regen 8.5 to 7.5 doesn't do anything. I mean, what is he really getting inside of a laning phase? Is he getting like half an auto attack worth of HP reduced? I mean, for a champion like Blitzcrank, that usually doesn't matter because either he's hooking you because you're in lethal, or he's already out of the fight because he was already, you know, more than away inside of lethal. So such a negligible amount of HP for his type of champion class in a 2v2 lane, it doesn't really do a lot. An AD carry losing half an auto attack worth of HP inside of a laning phase is entirely different than a Blitzcrank, and especially because Blitzcrank generally is coming in as a counter, not as a blind pick. Dr.Mundo, AD growth decreased, R cooldown no longer decreases with rank. Dr.Mundo has been tearing up top lane, so we're pulling some of his baseline offensive power power, so he has to make better use of his medical kit to successfully sedate his patients. AD growth 4.2 to 3.5, attack damage 61 to 132 to 61 to 120. Now our maximum dosage 110 to 90 to 110 seconds at all ranks. This just seems totally random. Obviously, I can't understand this at all. I don't think Mundo is worth being picked. What this also sort of signifies to me is that I think that Mundo is probably just not destined to come back to competitive anytime soon whatsoever. And that just makes me kind of sad. I think that had, obviously, Udyr or something been coming back into the meta, maybe Mundo inside of the jungle could have come back as a vacuum answer to something like Udyr. But realistically, as it stands, they're targeting him for top lane, and this is just crippling his jungle as well. And this is just really brutal, and there's no reason that something like this happened. Illaoi, base attack speed increased, W damage ratio increased. So this is a little bit weird. A lot of people did take attack speed rune on Illaoi in the initial runes, but you didn't have to do that if you just got accustomed to playing her with her auto attack animation. This is definitely going to help in that regard, though. W harsh lesson. So let me tell you the reason that they're buffing this. The reason that they're buffing this is because Illaoi's item was Divine Sunderer, and Divine Sunderer got crippled. And so what they're doing as a compensation method is they're giving Illaoi, this bonus 4% per 100 AD, targets at the max health. So it is an outright buff, even at, level 1 or something. You're just getting extra damage, right? But realistically, because Divine Sunderer has changed and whatnot, maybe even the build path for Illaoi has changed. I don't know. I was playing a lot of Illaoi in the Korean scrims with the Korean 9 and stuff, so but all of those Illaoi games were Divine Blunderer, and now I'm not sure. Maybe Illaoi ends up going Trinity Force, in which case all of these buffs are definitely going to help deal a lot more damage, but I'm just not totally sure. Maybe Illaoi goes something like Gore Drinker. I actually just don't know. I think if you're building Gore Drinker, you're probably already trolling. I just don't know where exactly Illaoi is right now, and I think this is just a compensation buff to her mythic being completely gutted. Kalista, base armor increased. Armor 21 to 24. It helps her, but again, if you're picking Kalista, you're picking her with an intention to pick her into a specific lane. She's not really a blind pick right now, and because she's not a blind pick and you're picking her into a specific lane, you're probably not that concerned with the 3 armor, but it is definitely going to be nice. Lucian, Q mana cost decreased. The Sentinel of Light hasn't actually seen much light this season, so we're letting him use his Shining spells more aggressively before he gets Essence Reaver. Okay, so Piercing Light 50 to 90 to 48 to 80. So how many Piercing Lights actually are you using inside of a laning phase to where this is actually a meaningful amount of mana that you're getting access to? Now, don't get me wrong. In the later stages of the game, having it be 10 mana less or something, that can maybe matter, but realistically, this is holistically a placebo buff, and it doesn't actually do anything whatsoever. And I'm so confused on how Riot thought that this would actually just be a meaningful buff, because the mana cost is just so negligible. This is actually almost like the 5 MS memes that people used to do way back in the day. Nami, Eon hit base damage reverted. Last patch, a small mark to Nami's E, we adjusted her passive so that her power remained at C level. Turns out she actually sank a bit as a result, so we're reeling the change back in. On hit damage per hit, 20 to 80 plus 20% AP to 25 to 85 plus 20% AP. So, whatever. I mean, I don't really know. I mean, we are pretty far into this patch right now, but realistically, there are no competitive changes thus far, and all of these things, it's really even hard to call them changes to the champions. Neeko, hitbox is now smaller. Q additional bloom base damage increased, W cooldown decreased. Base stats, gameplay, hitbox radius 80 to 65, okay. Q blooming burst, 40 to 120 plus 20% to 40 to 140 plus 20% AP. So I do believe this is her first ability max, and so at rank 3, I mean, you do start getting some nice damage, and then obviously 140 at the final rank. So Neeko is getting some damage, but I don't think that's what's gating Neeko from coming into competitive. All this really does is it kind of buffs up support Neeko, if anything. Shapeshifter or Shape Splitter, 20 to 16 to 16 to 12. That is a really big change. 16 to 12 is actually massive, getting 4 seconds shaved off it. If anything, Neeko is probably just going to end up as a support champion. There's probably no way that this is going to be mid or top Neeko at all. And she's just getting extra damage. Nunu and Willem, health growth decreased, Q base damage and healing from champions decreased. They're just nerfing champions all around, and it doesn't make any sense. I mean, I don't think anyone who's been watching competitive or solo queue or anything probably thinks that these are problematic champions. Health growth 82 to 76, health at level 18, 190, health at level 18, 1934 to 1832. Nunu is just losing a lot of HP. Q consume, healing from champion, 60 to 172 plus 72% AP, 8% bonus health to 45 to 129 plus 54% AP and 6% bonus health. So even AP Nunu is just getting smacked a lot, and I don't know what to think about it. I have a very negative impression from this entire patch so far. Qiyana, base AD scaling decreased. The Empress continues to be a little oppressive in higher levels of play, so reducing the AD scaling on her passive to curve her wave clear and snowball potential. Okay, passive, Royal Privilege. Additional physical damage 15 to 83, levels 1 to 18 strong, 55% bonus AD to 30% AP to 15 to 83 plus 45% bonus AD and 30% AP. So Qiyana, again, everyone's just getting nerfed this patch. This whole thing is just nerfed. And as I say that, Rumble base armor increased. Rumble is weak, especially in the top lane. We're fortifying him to be more in line with other melee laners so he can get scrappier with his enemies. His armor goes up by 5, so he's almost getting actually a free rune out of this, which is kind of nice for him. But again, when you're picking Rumble, you're generally picking him as a counter pick, and when he's coming in as a counter pick, does depend what he's going to be up against. But these changes are not really doing a whole lot. Now, Sett, okay. The Rift's #1 Mama Boy. So Sett gets 7 extra HP per level, health at level 18, 2181 to 2300. This does even help his damage, so that's actually kind of nice. The problem is that Sett is not going to go into mid or top lane, at least if you have any sort of self-respect. He's not going into mid or top lane, and so realistically this is just a buff to support Sett, and because it's support Sett, the health at level 18 is not super impactful. Realistically, what it means is that Sett gets half a Ruby Crystal. I mean, that's the way that you could end up looking at something like this, but or a little bit more than half a Ruby Crystal. Veigar. Base armor decreased, armor growth increased, E cooldown increased early. Veigar is standing head and shoulders above the competition as Shadow is especially tall in bot lane, so we're adjusting his scaling in a way that will impact him more in bot lane than in mid. Base armor 23 to 21, that's fine, doesn't really hurt that much against mages, but sometimes auto attacks are weaved in. Armor growth 3.75 to 4.0, so not the end of the world. It eventually end up actually getting more in the end. And event horizon 18 to 12 seconds to 20 to 12 seconds. Again, not the end of the world because you do at points end up just maxing E. So again, not really the end of the world because Event Horizon is not being instantaneously cast on cooldown, even in early stages of the game. Generally, it's more of a setup spell, and so for that reason, I mean, you don't really have to look at this Veigar nerf as something that's like super impactful. I think this is totally fine. Xayah, E damage amp based on crit chance increase. While we're happy that Xayah has lethality options, they've been overshadowing her crit builds. Rebel's gameplay is healthier and better suited to our identity when she builds at least attack speed, so we're increasing her crit scaling. Okay. Blade Caller critical strike dance multiplier is 0.5 to 0.75% more damage per 1% critical strike chance. It's nice, but the problem is that Xayah probably still ends up going for the lethality version in terms of lane power, just because lethality curves a lot harder. What this could end up doing is Xayah could maybe go for the Graves build, which is the Eclipse into Collector, Lord Dominic's, and then end up picking up the Infinity Edge. And I think in that regard, this is just going to be a massive buff for her in those instances. So I think that that's nice. Zeri. Okay, one of the most broken champions, right, has released in recent times. Uncharged basic attack, base damage and AP ratio decreased. Okay, magic damage 15 to 40, levels 1 to 18 plus 4% AP to 10 to 25, levels 1 to 18 plus 3% AP. Damage percent increase 300% to 500% against enemies below 35% health. Okay, that is definitely interesting. And then charge basic attack slow 20 to 40% to 14 to 50% based on Q rank, slow duration 1.5 to 1 second. Okay, and then Q burst fire 10 to 30 plus 110% AD to 9 to 25. So this isn't really the end of the world. It's also not really addressing what makes Zeri super strong. She is losing quite a bit of damage though. I mean, off the base, which that is something, but then obviously once the enemies get low, she ends up getting quite a bit. So I don't know. I feel like this is Riot attacking something that isn't necessarily what is making her super strong, but okay, we'll move on actually. As W Ultra Shock Laser, slow 50 to 70% to 30 to 70%. Okay, cooldown 10 seconds at all ranks to 13 to 9. That's kind of brutal. E Spark Surge 23 to 17 to 23 to 19. Cooldown reduction 1.5 seconds to 1 second per champion hit with charge basic attack or abilities. Okay. And then Lightning Crash bonus attack speed 30 to 40 to 30% of all ranks. Okay, actually Zeri is getting tagged quite a bit. Now I do think that Zeri is really strong, but okay, so I take back what I said earlier. This is actually a competitively influencing a patch note change here, in that Zeri is getting tagged really hard. Is it going to remove her from competitive? I think it's actually kind of hard to say. This might actually make her vulnerable enough to where she just does slot in. I think Zeri's real strength is when she's played mid or top lane, not necessarily in the AD carry position, but not a lot of people are actually flexing her right now. I think that as a flex, she'll still definitely remain viable, and she's just going to become an option. But the problem that I do worry is that if she is a mid and top laner, they're just going to end up gutting her so hard, and then she can't actually exist as an AD carry. Okay, items. Ally item pings now available. You can now display your items ally. Okay, that's really cool. Rejuvenation Breed. Total gold cost 150 to 300. Base health regeneration is going to be 50% to 100%. Sell back ratio 70% sell for 105 to 40% sell for 120 gold. So this actually hurts the Rejuve beat starts, which is really specific to some matchups, and that's it. It's specific to some matchups, not necessarily champions, and so I think in that regard it's totally fine. Crystalline Bracer and Knight's Vow are adjusted, as well as Warmogs, in order to compensate for it. And now we move on to the final thing, the most important, support gold income item. Here we go. So as for the context, we value flexible picks and creativity when they don't substantially corrupt game state or abuse systems that have very specific values and aren't meant to support other strategies. Using support income items in the solo lane to avoid having to care about income and opting out of traditional league is not the intended use case for those items and leads to degenerate gameplay. This is something that we're aiming to find a strong solve for in the future, but for now we're adjusting some systems to make sure the strategy doesn't waterfall into doing weird things to other systems. Objective and CS bounties weren't made to account for this kind of strategy, so we're updating them to properly adjust for atypical income strategies. We're also hitting early farming for the income item solo laners so they don't circumvent the CS penalty by leaving lanes soon after it hits. Key points that they value flexible picks and creativity. Support items top led to over-roaming, absent laning phase, or overall degenerate gameplay. We're working on a longer-term solution, but these changes should help reduce more immediate potential issues. Updating objective and CS bounties to adjust for atypical. Okay. So, Spell Thief's Edge, Relic Shield, Steel, okay. Minion farming penalty. Receive diminishing gold from excessive 4 minions per minute to 2 minions per minute until 5 minutes, 4 minions per minute thereafter. Minion kills. This diminished gold penalty is now also severe during the first 5 minutes of the game. That's fine. Bounties. Gold value bounties, aka CS bounties, are now based on the number of support gold income items on each team, rather than assuming each team has one support gold income item. Okay. Enemy gold leads are now significantly less likely to lead to objective bounties activating if there are 2 or more support gold. Ooh, nice. Okay. Objective bounties. Bounty linger period, 15 seconds, 5 seconds after objective bounties fall off. That's totally fine. So it does seem like Riot came up with a solution that still allows it to exist if you want to opt into it, but obviously there's going to be a lot more risk and you're going to have to walk a much thinner line. This is very different from my suggestion in that if you had Smite as a summoner spell, you could not purchase a support item, or that per lobby in competitive or something, there's 1 smite per lobby or something like that, which obviously Spellbook could still end up selecting it, and inside of solo queue, the jungle would auto load in with smite, and then if the jungler changed smite as his summoner, so if the jungler changed from smite to ignite, then someone else in the lobby could lock smite, and then they're the only person in the lobby that could lock smite, equivalent to locking a champion. And I think that would be fine, because that would allow junglers inside of solo queue to actually, you know, give away their role or something. But that's it. And then we move into ARAM, and obviously we got, you know, the behavioral systems, penalization, and all the other good stuff with the summoner icons. And then we got the upcoming skins. So I will make a video on Reneta. That'll probably end up coming out soon. I have just obviously been swamped with all the C9 stuff that is going on. And speaking of which, this is the LS Chroma jersey, which will be announced and released sometime in the near future, but I have been told that I can start wearing it and showing it, so hope that you guys do enjoy that. I ended up putting the photos out on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, and that is it. So the Patreon solo queue and Clash tier list, because you guys might have seen that there was Clash updates that ended up happening on Twitter and whatnot. Solo queue, Clash, and whatnot tier lists will be updated. Probably going to go live later on this week, probably by Friday, hopefully. It should be up on my Patreon, and that is pretty much it for this. And then I hope that you guys enjoyed the rundown. Next time I will try to do it with a Cloud9 member. And please leave feedback in the comment sections, because I know that some of these rundowns are, we're trying different stuff, me and Tuv, for the editing of the videos and just the overall approach for the aesthetics and how things can go. Also hoping to start incorporating some more mobalytic stuff into the patch rundown so that people can have a little bit more visuals with some of the stuff that I'm talking about with champions and win rates and other types of stuff from solo queue. I hope that you guys will enjoy that as well. So see you guys all in the next one.